Lucille Ball died in 1989, and not many people were with her. The star, who used to have 44 million fans every Monday night, was very lonely in her later years. Her homes were empty except for people she hired to help her. Her kids didn't come over. She lost all of her famous Hollywood friends one by one. What happened to America's favorite comic that made him a recluse? It has to do with money, betrayal, and a family secret that ruined everything she worked for. Lucille Ball's life began with a broken heart. Her father died of typhoid fever when she was only 3 years old. In February 1915, it took place. He was only 27, and Lucille's younger brother was due to be born soon. The family had moved around a lot because her dad worked for the phone company. The family had lived in New York, New Jersey, Montana, and finally Michigan, where they got sick. Everything fell apart after her father died. Her mother got sad and couldn't take care of the kids. Olivia went to live with her aunt, and her little brother went to live with their grandparents. Over time, Lucille would say that her childhood was marked by loss and bad luck. She would always remember one moment from that time. A picture fell off the wall right after her mom told her that her dad had died. Lucille then saw small gray sparrows pecking at the kitchen window. That little thing was strange, but it stuck in her mind. Ever since then, she was scared of birds. Not so much real ones, but pictures, drawings, or anything else that made her think of them. No matter how famous she got as an adult, she still wouldn't stay in hotel rooms with bird picture or wallpaper. She never got over that fear. Things were getting better when disaster struck again. Lucy had an accident in the garden when she was about 12 years old. Her dad had set up a safe spot with a gun for her to practice the shot. 22-pounder. He made sure the rules were followed by only letting the kids shoot at an empty field. But an 8-year-old neighbor boy showed up when he wasn't meant to. The boy stood up and was hit by the bullet while another child shot again. He will never be able to move again because it hit him in the back. The boy's family went to court and won. The things that Lucille's family lost were their house, their furniture, and even their insurance. Because he felt so guilty, her grandfather never worked again. They had to leave the town. In the end, Lucille said that one event broke up their family life. Then there was another storm. Lucille Ball fell in love with Johnny DeVita, a 21-year-old troublemaker from her town when she was only 14. It made her mother very angry. Being brave, she scraped together the little money she had and sent Lucille to a top acting school in New York City. She did this to keep her daughter from going in the wrong direction. Things did not go well. In the end, Lucille and Betty Davis were in the same class, but their lives could not have been more different. Davis did well, but Lucille had a hard time. There was no sugarcoating from the teachers. They told her straight out that she wasn't good enough. In one story, they even returned her mother's money and told Lucille she wasn't talented. Lucille later said that all she learned there was how to be scared, but being turned down didn't break her. It made a fire. In 1928, she went back to New York to keep going after her dream and show everyone they were wrong. Then she got rheumatic fever, just as things were beginning to make sense. It really hurt. She had so much pain for 2 years that she could hardly move or sing. During the years that should have helped her build her business, she was stuck in bed and watched time go by. A lot of people would have given up. She didn't, Lucille. She thought about what the teachers had said, but she didn't give up. Instead, she became stronger. She was more focused than ever when she finally got better. At about the same time, she got a job as a model for designer Hattie Carnegie. It was very important. Even though Carnegie liked Lucille, he made her make one big change. He bleached her brown hair yellow. Lucille didn't think twice. She changed her look, learned how to walk in fancy dresses, and took in everything she could about being elegant and powerful. She learned a lot of new things that she never learned in acting school. Her dream was still to be on stage, but modeling helped her get better at how she moved, looked, and held people's attention without saying a word. When she went back to looking for acting jobs, she used that polish. They weren't pretty in the 1930s and early 1940s. Lucille took any part she could get, whether it was in a supporting role or a meaningless lead role in a goofy comedy. She was in more than 75 movies, but she never made it to the top. She was called the Queen of B movies in Hollywood. She made fun of it by calling herself the Queen of the B+s, but it hurt. They tried to put her in roles that didn't really fit her, like flapper, beauty girl, or comedic partner. No matter how hard she worked, she kept going anyway. Even though the parts weren't great, they gave her experience, which was even better. She worked hard and learned a lot about the business. Over time, she built up the skills that would one day allow her to take over the screen on her own terms, not as someone else's idea of a star. Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz met in 1940 on the set of the movie Too Many Girls. Her name was already well known, and he was a young musician who was just starting out in Hollywood. As soon as they met, something clicked. Wish asked her right away if she knew how to rumba. After teaching her a few moves, he said, "I can teach you quickly, but only if you go out with me tonight." Lucille was hooked. She said later that she had never loved someone so quickly. Desi was very attractive, friendly, and active. The people who were making the movie saw the sparks right away. Some people even bet on how long the relationship would last. Too much was going on and too quickly for it to be real. Lucille couldn't stay away, though. She said he made her a little scared. What made her like him even more was that he was crazy and hard to guess. After the movie was over, they stayed in touch with expensive long-distance calls. Lucille thought she talked to him for about $29,000, 0 cents. In November 1940, after a few months, they were both in New York. Desi was singing at a theater and Lucille was interviewing people for a magazine. When asked about their romance, she said in that interview that it would never work. Late that same day, though, she fought with Desi about seeing another woman, and she was very angry when she showed up at his house. A surprise came at the end of that fight. Desi asked her to marry him. They drove to Connecticut in their car and got married that night, only 6 months after meeting. A lot of people were shocked when they got married. In the 1940s, Hollywood didn't like mixed-race partners. It was not seen as possible for a Cuban guy and a white woman to be together either on or off screen. Later, when Lucille wanted to bring her radio show to TV, CBS said no because she wanted Desi to play her husband. They didn't think the crowd would agree with them, but Lucille wouldn't budge. She said that their secret marriage was the bravest thing she had ever done. Friends of hers thought it would end soon. They gave it 6 months, she said. "I thought it would last 6 weeks, but the trouble began right after the vacation." Lucille got up early for work while Desi played shows late at night with his band. Desi traveled a lot with his band. Their plans were very close together. Then there were the more important problems. In Desi's world, stealing wasn't really seen as wrong when she was young. When he was 12, his father took him to a brothel. He thought that sleeping with other women didn't mean he wasn't mentally loyal to Lucille, but it hurt Lucille. Plus, he was drinking more and more, which made their marriage start to fall apart. Before they got married, she had been told about Desi's history with women all over the country. After only 4 years, in 1944, Lucille had had enough. To get a divorce, she did. Their fights were loud and never stopped. After the fact, their daughter Lucy said that she had a noisy childhood. But Lucille and Desi still couldn't stay away from each other after they filed the papers. Some people called their meeting fiery. They would break up and try again more than once. It turned into a habit. They still had one more thought. If working alone made them drift apart, then working together might keep them together. To make Lucille Ball's famous radio show, My Favorite Husband, into a TV show in 1950, CBS tried to get it done, but Lucy shocked them. She said she'd only do it if Desi Arnaz, who plays her real-life husband, played her husband on the show too. The network didn't like the thought. Wish was from Cuba. He spoke English very badly. As an American, they didn't think American fans would believe that he was married to an all-American woman. At that time, it was rare to see mixed-race weddings on TV, and in many USS states, they were still against the law. Lucy didn't give up, though. The two of them put together a live show to show they could work together. They went on a national tour doing singing and comedic acts. People loved them. They got great reviews. There was no denying their chemistry. CBS finally gave in because the tour was so popular. They agreed to cast Desi, and the show I Love Lucy was born. But it wasn't easy to make the show. CBS wanted to film it in New York, where most TV shows are made, but Lucy wouldn't leave Hollywood. That decision changed TV for good. Desi helped come up with a new way to film, with 3 cameras at once in front of a live studio crowd, while working with director Jess Oppenheimer. It was dangerous. They had to look for a studio that met safety rules and had enough room for an audience. They finally found one in Hollywood and fixed it up with help from CBS. The way this movie was shot was very different. Like in a play, it let players act scenes all the way through without having to stop and start. It also caught real laughs and emotions from the people watching. Desi also demanded that they use good 35mm film instead of the fuzzy tape that most shows at the time used. It turned out to be a great choice. When Lucy and Desi agreed to own the shows through their company, Desilu, they gave up some of their pay. I Love Lucy was one of the first big hits in syndication because the shows were shot so well that they could be shown over and over again for decades. In 1952, the show ran into another trouble. Lucy found out they were having a second child. At that time, people thought it was rude to show or even talk about pregnancy on TV. Philip Morris and CBS were not happy with the show. They said it couldn't be shown on TV. But Lucy and Desi didn't give up. They didn't want to hide her behind props or stay away from the subject altogether. The writers instead came up with a smart way to get around the problem. In the story, they would talk about her pregnancy, but they would never say the word pregnant. They used kinder words like with child or expecting. To be safe, the French word "en" was even used in one show. A group of faith leaders looked over the script. In January 1953, 44 million people watched the show where Lucy gives birth. This was the same day that Lucy had her baby in real life. People all over the country used less water while the show was on because they didn't want to miss a second. After that, I Love Lucy could not be stopped. It was the most watched show in the country for 4 of its 6 seasons. The show was still at the top of the ratings when it finished in 1957. Since then, only The Andy Griffith Show and Seinfeld have done that. Lucy won an award for being the funniest. There were also Emmys for Desi and Oppenheimer. The show won 5 Emmys and became an important part of TV history. I Love Lucy kept getting new viewers even after the show stopped. All over the world, reruns were shown. A poll in 2012 said it was the best TV show ever. A colored version of A Christmas Show got over 8 million views in one night in 2013. People were still laughing about Lucy and Desi's show more than 60 years after it started. The couple started their own business behind the scenes called Desilu Productions. It became the biggest independent TV station in the country in just a few years. Their first shows were The Untouchables, The Andy Griffith Show, and The Dick Van Dyke Show. They bought RKO Studios for $6 million, 0 cents. 2 people got together because they wanted to stay close and believed in what they were making. But Lucy and Desi's marriage was over by 1960. The next thing that happened shocked everyone, as shares were bought out by Lucy for $2.00, $5 million, and became Lucy Lou's boss. At that point, a woman had never been in charge of a big Hollywood company. Many people didn't believe her. Some people said she was just funny and not good at running a business. But Lucy showed them they were wrong. She was in charge of big budgets, arranging deals, making tough executive choices, and planning for the future while she was still on the Lucy Show. Not many people were thinking about this at the time, but she even started a distribution business inside Desilu to handle reruns. Then Lucy did one of her bravest things in 1966. No one else believed in Star Trek and Mission Impossible, but she gave the go-ahead for these two expensive new shows. The shows were too dangerous, too expensive, and too weird, her team told her, but Lucy went with her gut. At one point, she even got Star Trek wrong, thinking it was about famous people going on tour. It was still interesting to her, and she was right. Both shows became well-known. By the beginning of 1967, Desilu was doing well again. Lucy sold the studio for $17 million, 0 cents, and left the business with a huge profit and a reputation as one of the smartest people in TV. Before all of that, Lucy and Desi had made another choice that was quiet but important. When CBS asked them to film I Love Lucy live in New York, they refused to leave California. They said they would work for less money if they could film the show on 35M. Everything changed because of that one choice. It let the show be shown again. It started the business of distribution. It also made I Love Lucy a show that would make money for decades. It's thought to have made over $700 million, 0 cents, in rerun sales, even now, more than 70 years later. People did more than laugh when they saw Lucille Ball. The way TV works has changed because of her. It was possible because she trusted herself, took chances, and never gave up. There was an event in September 1953 that almost ended Lucille Ball's career. It all began with a story that Walter Winchell, a news reporter for a national radio show, spread without much thought. He asked what TV star with red hair used to be a communist. No one said her name, but everyone knew who he meant. News people were already outside of Lucille and Desi's house the next morning, waiting for a story. The Los Angeles Herald-Express had a big red headline that day that said, "Lucille Ball named red." Other papers quickly picked it up. All of a sudden, the star of the most watched TV show in the world was called a communist. It wasn't just rumors. Back then, having ties to communism could make your life very bad. A lot of people lost their jobs and were put on a blacklist. 44 million people watched I Love Lucy. The funders put a lot of money into it. Everything was now in danger because of something Lucille Ball did almost 20 years ago. That's why she signed up to vote as a communist in 1936. She didn't really believe in it. To make her grandpa happy, she did it. He did what was right for workers because he had raised her. It was her job to keep the family calm. But now she felt bad about the choice she made. She talked about everything with a government detective. She was scared, but she told the truth. She said that she had never been to a communist meeting. Her name had been mentioned before in the 1930s. Someone said that a meeting had taken place at her house. She said she didn't know about it, though. Her brother also stood by her. There was no political force behind what they said. It was all done to make their grandpa happy. Lucy was scared that she would lose everything, but Desi Arnaz wasn't doing anything. He did something. He sat down with the reporters at their house and told them everything that had happened. He said Lucille had never been a communist. He didn't stop there, though. He did something even scarier while shooting the first show of the new season. There were reporters in the crowd, and there was a lot of anxiety. Desi spoke to them from the stage. He told them he had called and there was someone on the other end. After that, he put the phone to the mic. It was J. Edgar Hoover was in charge of the FBI, and he made it very clear. Lucille Ball was not a communist. The crowd gave a loud cheer. It was electric in the room. Even though Desi cleared her name in front of the whole country, he still had one more thing to say. He spoke in a shaky voice and told the crowd, "Now I want you to meet my favorite redhead. The only thing red about her is her hair, and that's not even real." The joke worked. When the stress dropped, Lucille, with tears in her eyes, took the lead. The crowd roared. After that, Lucille Ball was named Woman of the Year. Desi and she were asked to have dinner at the White House. It was almost the end of her because of the scandal, but they turned things around by being honest, brave, and funny. After their painful and long split in 1960, Lucille Ball had no plans to get married again. She was 49 years old, tired and sad, but one night in New York, everything changed. A friend set her up on a blind date with Gary Morton, a comedian who works at a bar. Lucille was on Broadway at the time of the date, which took place at a pizza place. It's not very exciting, but it worked. Gary said he had never seen I Love Lucy and was 13 years younger than Lucy. He always had work on Monday nights, which is when it aired. Lucille was really impressed by that. It meant that her fame didn't impress him. After going out together for a while, they got married after 11 months. The event was small, with only 40 people present, but there was a big crowd waiting outside when they left the church. People cheered and said, "Good luck, Lucy." In notes she sent later, Lucille raved about how happy she was all the time. She loved Gary and said he was nice, funny, good-looking, and kind. She was glad she found him. They were married for almost 28 years until she died. It was right after Lucille's one and only Broadway show, Wildcat, opened when they met. It was meant to go really well, but things didn't work out that way. Opening night was pushed back because trucks bringing the sets got stuck on the highway during a snowstorm. There was a lot of pressure because her company, Desilu Productions, had put a lot of money into the show. People thought she would act like Lucy Ricardo from TV, but she did something very different. Lucille started to change her act by making jokes and using facial movements that made people think of her TV character. It wasn't helpful, not many people liked it, and the stress made her health worse. When she got sick, the show had to end sometimes. After that, she passed out on stage one night in April. Because of the players' union, they wouldn't let them stop the show so she could get better. The show ended after only 171 performances because the costs were too high. She was having a rough time with her job. At home, things didn't get better. Desi Jr., Lucille's teenage son, began dating actress Patty Duke in 1970. Lucille didn't like Patty at all when she was 23. In a strange twist, she was 6 years older than Desi Sr. when they got married. She was angry about her son's relationship now, though. In the end, she gave him hard choices. He would lose everything if he didn't end it. The house, the will, and everything. Desi Jr. thought that his mom was mostly worried about keeping the family's good name. Patty said she wasn't angry, but she was really hurt. She thought she was only trying to help and shouldn't be seen as a danger. Besides all of that, she was having mental health problems and meeting other people, like star John Astin. Still, Desi Jr. and I had on and off relationships. Then there was the scandal. A short time after married Michael Tell, Patty got pregnant. There were claims that Desi Jr. was the real father after only 13 days of marriage. Lucille was scared to death. She had spent years carefully building a good public image, and this was the last thing she wanted. In the end, Patty said she told people Desi wasn't the father when she knew he wasn't. She didn't tell lies, but she also didn't change what was said. When she had her son Sean in 1971, the news went crazy. The hospital had to hide his name so that the news media wouldn't talk about him. Lucy Desi Jr., Desi Sr.'s sister, came to see the baby. No, Lucille did not. After many years, DNA tests proved that Michael Tell was Sean's real father. He stayed in Sean's life, though. No matter what, they had a bond. It was already too late. The news stories, rumors, and drama turned out to be exactly what Lucille had feared. A scandal she couldn't stop had tainted the reputation of her family. Most people thought Lucille Ball's career would end when I Love Lucy stopped in 1957, but Lucy wasn't done yet. Not even close. She came back with a new show called The Lucy Show in 1962. Everyone was shocked when it did even better than her last one. In 1968, she was back on top, but she did something unexpected. She left. She didn't want to work on something she didn't own anymore since she had sold Delu. She started over with a new production business and a new show called Here's Lucy. This time it was about them. Lucy and Desi Jr., her real children, were cast to play her kids on the show. She said she wasn't going to do it without them. Civil rights, rock music, and changed social norms were some of the things that the show tried to talk about with a new generation. Lucy was trying to stay important in a world that was changing. By 1973, though, the numbers were going down. Her daughter Lucy went on a tour of Broadway, and Lucy was ready to go back to the big screen. She finally took a break after 23 years of being on TV all the time. Behind the scenes, though, Lucy was already having trouble. Vivian Vance, who was her best friend and co-star on The Lucy Show, had quit years before. Vivian was worn out. She was tired from the long drive from her home on the East Coast to the studio in Los Angeles. She asked for extra cash and ideas, but she didn't get them. Lucy was very sad when she left. In private, she cried and said she couldn't see herself doing the show without her. After Vivian left, the show had to be changed in every way. Years went by. Lucy did something no one saw coming in 1985, when she was 74 years old. In the TV show Stone Pillow, she played a woman who was poor. She wanted to show that she could do more than just be funny. People watched and the numbers were good. She tried one more comedy, Life with Lucy, because she felt better, but everyone had moved on. Some people didn't like this show, so it was canceled after only 8 episodes. Her show had never been pulled in the middle of its season before. It hurt Lucy a lot to fail. She stopped going out in public as often. The last time she was seen on TV was at the 1989 Oscars, standing next to Bob Hope and getting a standing ovation. Lucille Ball died the next month in the same year. But in 1986, something very important happened in a quiet way. Des Arnaz, her ex-husband and former co-star, had cancer and was dying. They got divorced many years ago, but their love had never really gone away. Lucy often went to see him. In the end, their daughter Lucy said that they still had a close bond. If they had been married for 46 years, November 30, 1986, would have been their anniversary. Lucy called Desi. He had a hard time talking. Lucy put the phone up to his ear. Lucy told him over and over that she loved him. After giving her a weak hug, Desi said, "I love you too, honey." He then told her, "Good luck with your show." After 2 days, Desi passed away with Lucy by his side. Lucy went to the hospital right away on April 18, 1989, because she was having chest pains. A tear was found in her heart's main artery. It looked like she might make it through her long, dangerous surgery for a while. A lot of cards came from fans all over the world. But after 8 days, she suddenly had back pain. Her body gave out. It took doctors almost an hour to try to save her life, but they couldn't. She passed away on April 26, 1989, 77. A great star was taken away from the world. More than that, it lost a woman who had fought all the way to the end to be seen, loved, and remembered.